Welcome to Chez Les Fleur podcast, where we talk about business, small business, businesses owned by couples, family-owned businesses, first-time entrepreneurs. If you like hearing what's happening in the small business world, especially women-led small business, then we are the podcast for you. I'm Janet McLeod, and I want to welcome you again to Chez Les Fleur. If you are watching for the first time, we're so glad you're with us. We have a great guest today in Halman Plumley. And if you're a returning viewer, we're glad to have you back. It's always good to have a familiar group of people around you. Today's guest is Halman Plumley, and she works for IG Wealth, and she is responsible for looking after people's money, which is that's a big responsibility. And Betty, have you always been in the investment finance world?
Um, so Janet, I spent the first 20 some years working in the family services early childhood sector. And so in midlife, I did a career change and moved to IG Wealth Management. But I have to say, I started in 2005. So this coming spring, I will be at IG Wealth Management for 20 years.
Wow.
I know it feels like yesterday that I made that career change, but I just have to say, I loved my work with families and children and just still so believe in that important work. And there's been lots of studies. I don't know, am I allowed to say all this stuff? But there's been lots of studies that talk about the importance of supporting young families and children. And I think they talked about for every dollar you spend on prevention and support, you save $10 down the road, on treatment and healthcare and the criminal system. So anyways, I just, still my heart is there. But yeah, so that was how I started my career. But I have to say, I feel like I'm full circle now because I really specialize working with all three generations and specifically seniors. So I feel like my career's kind of gone full circle.
Excellent. So what was I mean, you loved working, as you said, with children and in that early childhood sector. What was your catalyst for moving to investments and wealth management?
You know what? Lots of people ask me that question because it is such a pivot, right? Um, well, Ken and I had been clients of IG throughout our marriage, and so I knew like the important work that we had an advisor that brought to our family. So I recognized how important, critical that was. And at the same time, I felt like I had done everything I wanted to do in the other sector. Like, with my team, we did outreach in the rural and urban and father involvement programs. I just felt like I had done everything. So it was time for a career change. And because, like I said, Ken and I were already clients, I thought this really, can have a pivotal impact on families, but in a different sector. So that's what happened.
So really, you're still looking after families.
Yeah, absolutely.
So 20 years ago when you started, there were probably not many women in your office doing what you're doing. Tell us what that looked like.
So, yeah, so true, Janet. Like, honestly, I remember going to training events and going, like, we have events across the country, and literally in a room, 100, 200 people, there'd literally be a handful of women. And we'd look around, we could see each other and kind of like, hi, you're in this too. So I feel like I've always been kind of leading edge in that way. But I'm happy to say that definitely there's more and more women in the industry now, and we bring so much, I guess, different skills to financial planning that's really important. So there's more. I mean, way back when I remember filling out surveys saying, where are women? Like, where are women on the main stage? How come we don't have women leaders? And now I would say, I literally was just in Winnipeg a few weeks ago at a leaders forum, and probably half of the presenters and leaders were women. So it's definitely changed. I mean, we still lag. There's maybe 30, 40% industry people are women, I would say. But it's definitely changing for the better. I mean, in terms of number of women.
Well, and like you say, I think women bring a different skill set in that they may choose different investments because of, climate concerns or political unrest in other parts of the world, and not making sure they're not buying into something that would support those things.
Yes, and we can talk about that as well. But you know what? I think, well, we know that often there's mostly elderly women when we talk about wealth transfer. I mean, so often women might want to meet with a woman advisor, but I think we just bring a lot of different life experience and maybe a little bit sort of compassion to the job. And I have to say, I've had people say to me, you know what, Betty, you bring a holistic approach to financial planning. And I think as a woman, but also with my previous career, I think all of that kind of makes a difference there too.
I think, you've taught, and we've talked about this many times, the three-generation approach, and, what is, it's fine to say I want to do this, but how is it, maybe that won't impact your children, but it will impact your grandchildren, and looking at how, well, you use the word holistic, but multi-generational. And in First Nations culture, for example, they look 7 generations ahead.
Yeah,
What will this look
absolutely.
like in 7 generations?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the approach that I'm bringing to my practice. And I found early on in my career that I was working with lots of three generations. So I'd have lots of people in that kind of middle generation that would say, Betty, I want you to work with my elderly parent. And then, of course, they'd bring in their younger children. So I found early I had lots of three generations. And there's so much power to planning with, like you said, like intergenerational wealth planning versus individual families. And also, my approach is more about wisdom sharing and value sharing too. And that's kind of the holistic piece that I think that sometimes in our industry we're missing. So I'm really excited to bring that to the practice. And it just has way more power. Like you said, we can have an impact not only in our lives, our children's lives, future generations, but then also it's like, okay, now that everyone's taken care of, how can we have an impact in the community and the world? So it just gets bigger. And one person, a friend of mine in Vancouver, I go there frequently. She said, Betty, what you're doing is like the social purpose of financial planning. I never heard that term before, but I just think it makes so much sense. And that's where I say it's sort of a holistic intergenerational approach.
Yeah, it's teaching that financial literacy that we
Yeah.
also hear a lot about, and starting young and teaching it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You talked about community support. You're the current president of the Rotary Club of Peterborough, which is 100-year-old Rotary Club. And in 100 years, they haven't had many women presidents, have they?
No, I'm the fifth woman president in 102 years. So what does that say? I joined other amazing women presidents before me, but certainly it's been mostly men in that organization. But I have to say, our Rotary Club has lots of women, vibrant women, as you know.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure to be part of this incredible group. It's a lot of work, but I've got the energy and I'm passionate about the work that we do as Rotary, so it's been good.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, it touches so many people in so many parts of the world in so many ways. Like whether it's something little or something big, there's a place to fit in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Rotary, I don't know, this podcast's not about Rotary, I know that, but
No, but it's about women in business, and
yeah, absolutely. But you know what? It literally checks every box for me. Like we've got speakers that are really smart and topical and relevant to our community. There's so much camaraderie and social and fun. And I've actually got some business from Rotary, which it's not meant to be like a business network. But also we just can make a difference, right? Like-minded people coming together, and we've had huge
Mhm.
impact in this community. And like you said, globally. So it's just such a great organization.
Yes, it is. Well, you're having a great year, and
Thank
I
you.
watch the progress of your club closely, and you're right. You're having a great year, but you're also having an awful lot of fun. And it's not just about the work. It's got to be fun too. So
Absolutely. But you know what, Janet, I'm surrounded by incredible, smart, compassionate leaders in the community, and we work together, right? So that's where it's at. I'm just the president. I mean, I feel like, well, I was just going to say, sometimes I feel like I'm the conductor of the symphony. So I know sort of the song and the music and what I, kind of want to, how it's supposed to sound, but it's really all of the players and the, people who do their solos and ensembles that, make it come together. So.
yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And then all of a sudden your year is over and you think, where did that go? Like,
Oh, it's so
where
true.
did that
There are
year
days I'm
go?
counting down, but
Yeah, some days you're counting down and some
yeah,
days you can't believe it's done. So
yeah, mostly I'm loving it though.
what would you say to your 16-year-old self?
Wow, I love this question. How much time do we have?
As much as you want.
Okay. Um, I think first of all, my faith is really important to me. I don't know if you know that, Janet. It has been since I've been honestly a little girl. I don't even know where it came from, right? I just felt like I just had this sort of spiritual closeness to God, and since I was little. And at one time when I was in elementary school, I went to church every day. I mean, who does that? But anyways, but throughout my life, I've had ups and downs, right? Where like my faith wasn't important to me as much and, kind of just ups and downs in my life. But I would say whenever I was having challenges in my life, it was usually during times when my faith wasn't very strong. So there seems to be a correlation. So I literally would say, and I have said to myself, you know what, just that should have been at the forefront all the time. So I would say that. Um, I would say keep learning and just go for it. Just go for it. Like, so there were times I was really hesitant about things, and mostly I went for it. I would say yes to things, which leads to a full, rich, wonderful life. But sometimes I would be more tentative because I was too worried about what people would think.
Mhm.
And looking back, I'm like, you know what? Who cares what people think at this stage, right? You don't care
Right.
as much. Um, what else would I tell myself? I think, when I say just go for it, and say yes to things, but I also think you have to be thoughtful because what I'm finding at this age in my life, and when I work with lots of other clients that are, midlife or older, elderly, like they'll say to me, I wish I had have invested more. I mean, it's so many ways, like invested more in my future, right? And they all say, I wish I had put more money aside sooner. So that's kind of the financial planning. Everyone says that. But also some of the decisions we make, even just like how we take care of our bodies, when you're later, it kind of catches up to you. So I would just say be mindful about some of the big decisions you're making, and because they will come back years later, I guess. So as much as go for it and have fun, but also be really thoughtful about these big decisions.
I think that's very wise.
Thank you.
Very wise.
Thank you.
Betty, I know you're busy and you've got a lot on the go. You've got grandchildren and
Yeah.
adult
Oma.
children. And, yeah, what's that?
I'm an Oma,
An
which is,
OMA. You're an
yeah,
OMA.
my
Yes, yes.
Dutch
And you've got a
background.
busy business and a busy volunteer life. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate you taking time to talk to us today. I like to close our meeting or our time together with some rapid fire questions, just random things.
Okay.
And if you're in for that,
Sure.
okay, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. Reynolds or Gosling?
I have to pick one.
You have to pick one.
Reynolds, like Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah,
Yes.
the two Ryans. Yeah.
Yes.
Snow ski or wind or water ski?
I think water ski, I'm a summer person, but I did take up cross-country skiing a few years ago with some of my women friends, and I'm actually really enjoying it. It's hard work, but probably water
It
skiing
it is a
still.
work. Yeah, it is a workout, isn't it?
Yeah.
Juice or pop?
Juice. I'm not a big pop drinker.
Pumps or slingbacks?
Pumps like shoes, like high heels. Oh, I'm all about the high heels, Janet. All of
Okay.
it. Yeah, absolutely. I've got a closet full of heels.
I was just going to say, you've got some beautiful shoes.
Yeah, thank you.
And pencil or pen?
I try to use a pencil because I really recognize that you can erase it and make really clean notes. And I often will start with the pen or pencil, and I never use the pen. So I end up using a pen and have lots of like circles and arrows and lines drawn on my notes. And anyways, which isn't the most pretty, but a pen.
Okay. Betty, thank you so much. Betty Halman Plumley is at IG Wealth and is a finance builder, family builder, community builder extraordinaire. And I feel really grateful to have had you with us today because I appreciate how busy you are and how much you do for everybody that your life touches.
Oh, thank you, Janet. My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And if you're watching for the first time, this is Chez Les Fleur podcast, where we talk to exceptional women who are rocking it in the business world. And if you're joining us you're back again to see us, then we're really glad to have you. Next week, our guest will be Karen Laws, and she teaches, well, she says she's a dog trainer, but I think secretly she trains the owner, is what she does. So thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you, Betty, for being with us today and taking the time to tell us your story. We really, truly appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
you soon.
Bye. Okay. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.